Isn't it amazing that no matter how many times I practice this before the sermon, as soon as the sermon part comes up in the order of service, I'm like, whoa, that went by too fast. Well, I want to thank everyone for thank you so much for coming. This morning's topic is Seize the Love. And it's going to sound a little strange, but it's actually about antibodies. You'll understand in a moment. I was going to Florida for a week. The Unitarian Universalist Ministers Association was having their weekly retreat. Well, it's an annual retreat before a week. And during that time, we attend all kinds of very interesting worship and very interesting lectures and presentations. And one of the people who was speaking at that lecture was a Pentecostal minister who was one of the co-chairs for the Interfaith Council of New York City. He was also there when 9/11 hit. Reverend James Forbes suddenly found himself called to memorial service after memorial service after memorial service every single day. And he said it crushed his spirit down. He wanted to find some way to survive that experience. He wanted to find something he could look forward to at these events just to survive them. And what was interesting during this sermon that he was giving is that he started looking for the Unitarian Universalists in the audience. Isn't that interesting? Do you want to know why? Thank you. It was because at each of these memorial service, these presentations, these events that he was going to, he was trying to steer people away from the anger and the hate reaction. He was trying to get them to not immediately blame the entire religion of Islam for the actions of terrorists. And he knew that if there was a Unitarian Universalist in the audience, he could call on them to help. That they would be able to look past the angers, the labels, the hatred, to try to find the people within. He said he could depend on them to look for those who were invisible or on the margins. And he came to depend on Unitarian Universalists at every event he went to. Isn't that absolutely beautiful? So I'm going to throw out a little theory here. If the American society is a body, the Unitarian Universalists, our religion is the immune response. Okay? And of course, there are white blood cells in an immune response and antibodies, and I'll go into what each of those stands for. But to have an immune response, that means there has to be some part of the body that recognizes when something isn't right, when it isn't supposed to be there. Reverend Forbes found that out when he was giving these services. Hopefully, I'm going to share that with you as well. So, beginning with the immune system, let's go to the white blood cells. Now, a white blood cell is something that the body sends out to identify and hopefully eliminate foreign organisms or something that's a threat to the body. Now, the white blood cells are us, each congregation and each individual. The congregation provides you with morals, with ideals, with principles for which to identify what is foreign or dangerous to the American society. We have in our collection 7 principles. So, for example, we are telling you, our congregation, that we believe in the inherent worth and dignity of every person. You, as individual cells, or as a church as a whole, go out and you identify when somebody is not being shown their inherent worth and dignity. The body has provided the immune system with the model. The cells, you as individuals, would go out and notice, you know, this person over here, they're having their worth crushed in some way. And if it's something that you yourself as an individual can do something about, you do. If it's something you need more white blood cells to do, then the church steps in. If it's something like basic human civil rights for people crossing the desert and trapped in prisons in Texas, then we call on the larger immune system, our entire organization. That's what we're doing. We are the immune response to something wrong in the world. So, you may not have thought of yourselves as white blood cells before. Maybe it's only me. But if you are the white blood cell, that means you need to know it. If there's a danger in the society and you don't know what to do about it, we're here. If Pentecostal ministers, Catholic ministers, any other ministers, or individuals need somebody who stands up for the rights of the oppressed, for the invisible, who needs somebody to help them notice when something is wrong, guess what? It's you. Dun, da, 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 da. You are the superheroes, and you didn't even know it. Under each of your shirts, hidden very quietly away, you have one of these. You are amazing, and you didn't even know it. You're the heroes the world needs. But how are you going to do it? How are you going to survive the experience of being a superhero? You know it's not easy. You've seen all the movies. They get beat up, thrown into buildings, cars get tossed on them. It's a lot of work. Well, I'll give you a clue. In the 1960s, there was a comic book called The X-Men. You don't need to know it. I'll explain it. The X-Men was a comic book where mutants were people that were hated by the world. They had something about them that was way above and beyond the normal human capacity. Maybe they had blue fur and fangs. Maybe they could jump over entire buildings. Maybe they could turn invisible or walk through walls. What they did wasn't as important as what the world did to them. They became the new pariah. They became the person that nobody in the world wanted to be friends with. And when they were writing this comic book, they said, what would be the response to this? They had one character by the name of Magneto who wanted to hate the world right back, wanted to destroy all the humans to make it safe for mutants. The other response was by a man named Charles Xavier. He gathered the mutants together and he said, no matter what the world does to you, don't hurt them. Don't hate them back. They don't always know what they're doing. This was non-violent resistance. He was teaching these children, these teenagers, and these adults how to withstand all of that anger and hatred, all of that foreign bodies crushing in on them. He was trying to show them ways to survive. Now, as a young gay man growing up, this was a big deal to me because I felt a lot of that anger. I felt a lot of that hatred, a lot of that discrimination over something I had absolutely no control over. I didn't decide to have this particular genetic mutation or adaptation. It was there. This comic book appealed to me in the fundamentalist way. Now, the idea that you could be hated by a society and still want to preserve it is not a new thing. African Americans with the Tuskegee Airmen, the 442nd Regiment for Japanese Americans. You could do all kinds of things with the Jewish Holocaust. People who were hated for what they were, not by anything they necessarily did. The mutants felt this. We, perhaps as individuals or as cultures and ethnicities, have felt that. Now, we can do something about it. This is going to sound a little odd, of course. But now that you're a white blood cell, what is your response to these foreign elements, these hatreds and angers? It's right here. This is where you keep your immune response. Love. There's a kind of love that I call baffling love. Somebody comes up to you, maybe you've spent the last 3.5 hours in a DMV waiting just to renew your license. We've all been there. And you go up to that front of the line, and that poor person behind the counter has been hearing nothing but critique and anger and frustration all day. because that's all they get. And instead of taking the low path and being just as angry as everyone else, you ask how their day is going. You compliment on the beautiful dress that they're wearing. You tell them you really enjoyed meeting them that day. Of course, their expression might be something of pure bafflement. But it's the right thing to do. Nonviolent resistance, Mahatma Gandhi worked on with his followers. He had to convince them that even if they were being shot at, trampled on by horses, attacked by men with knives, don't respond. Love them. Sit down, stand, hold hands, and give them smiles, give them love, give them everything that they may not have ever had before. Give them baffling love. Because just like every other hateful group in the world, I'm sure they've had hate back. I'm sure they've had anger back. And it doesn't always make even a bit of difference. Ignoring them doesn't work either. But love baffles them. Absolutely confounds, confuses, and sometimes stops them in their tracks. Until eventually they see that no matter what they do to you, you love them back. It's not easy. So, now that you know that you're white blood cells, and now that you know the immune response, and now that you know that baffling love is the antigen to the world's poisons, I want you to think about what you have to do to keep the white blood cell alive. You see, everybody here has different needs. And I'm going to summarize a little bit from Parker Palmer's book. There are 4 seasons. People in spring have things going crazy. There's things growing everywhere. There's chaos. There's maybe a dozen new children visiting your house for the Christmas weekend. Whatever it is, you are in complete chaos. That's a spring person. But they've also got the most stuff happening, the most energy, the most creativity. Next would be a summer person. A summer person who's settled down a little bit. They know how to manage the resources. They know how to give enough energy. They know how to keep things going. But it's still constant. They're still moving, providing activity, and sometimes a little burnout. A fall person is somebody who has started to cut down on their schedule by choice or not by choice. Maybe they've approached so much burnout, they start pushing things off their plate. They start doing less. Maybe they are dealing with some kind of an illness. Maybe there's a family member that needs help. And lastly is a winter person. Somebody who, by their own choice or by the world, has to withdraw. They have to take care of themselves before anyone else. Maybe it's a serious illness. Maybe it's a death in the family. Maybe it's a loss of a job. Whatever it is, each one of those people has different things to give and needs different things in return. Here's the hard part. Nobody else knows what you're in. Nobody else knows if you're in a summer or a spring, a fall or a winter. Only you do. You have to communicate it to us as individuals and as ministers. You have to say, I'm a winter person, I need help. Or I'm a winter person, I need to be left alone for a little while. I'm a spring person, can I get a babysitter? I'm a summer person, how could I be of help? I'm a fall person, can you help me organize my schedule a little bit or help me push a few of these committee meetings ahead a little? You have to tell us. We don't know. It may be obvious on your face, but probably not. Now, I want to summarize again. The religion is the immune system. The American body is what we are living in. All of us, as individuals or as communities, we're the white blood cells. We're the ones, even if we can't do anything about it ourselves, we will know when somebody is not being mentioned in a speech. You're talking about women's rights, but there's no women on the panel. Hold on. Da-da-da! Where's my Unitarian Universalist in the audience? Somebody point that out. That's what we are. We are the immune response cells. And then lastly, what should we do? Baffling love. Whatever it is, just put it out there. No matter how they treat you, just put it out there. Even if they don't understand why, love them. Just like that foster child in the meditation. Love them. Irrational love. That's what I mean by seize the love. Find it, grasp it, throw it out, bring it back, pet it, nurture it, feed it. Hand it out to every single person you meet, even if it confuses them. The world, in particular American society, has a lot of illnesses going on. They need us so much.